You have a car, a goal to reach, and not quite enough fuel to make it there. What do? According to Sarah, you go straight for the fuel map. But what does she know? I've never even seen her on a grid before. And besides, I've already tested this in Gran Turismo Sport. Short shifting, which is a method of shifting gears very early to save fuel by not letting the engine rev to its potential, absolutely smashed any time set by using the fuel map to save fuel. So just to spite Sarah, I stealth uploaded a video to the Formula Digital Sprints channel, showing how you can crush the gold time for the fuel challenge if you just short shift and don't even bother with the fuel map at all. And then, just to rub some salt into the wound, I redid the mission using the fuel map, just like she said, to just prove how bad her advice really is. But then this happened. That's 2 seconds faster. Man, this just ain't going to plan. So was I wrong? Is using the fuel map or short shifting faster in GT7? The first step in finding out was recreating that same test I did in GT Sport, this time in GT7 using the Alfa 4C GR4 around Kyoto. The fuel usage was multiplied enough to require the fuel map to be set in the middle of the range in order to get the fuel to last for 5 laps. And just as I thought before Sarah intervened, short shifting to save fuel was a lot faster than using the fuel map. So why was I so much faster using the fuel map in the fuel challenge? Maybe it's because I did my initial challenge when I first got the game. It's possible I'm just a better driver now. So I went back. I short shifted over and over, and you know, while I did improve, but I was still half a second down on the fuel map time. If the result in the 4C were to be believed, I should be beating the fuel map time no problems, but I didn't even match it. So what's going on here? These two results directly contradict each other. There are only 2 variables, the car and the track. To test the track being the reason for the discrepancy, I took that same GTR that started the fuel challenge to Kyoto, the track that saw the 4C much faster with short shifting. After 6 laps at 14 times fuel consumption, the results were identical. The fuel map and short shifting times evenly matched one another. So it wasn't the track that made the 4C faster when short shifting, because if it was, the GTR would have been faster around Kyoto also. So we can say that it must be down to the car. The 4C is faster short shifting, while the GTR works out about the same either way. We can prove this when the short shifting Alfa 4C smashes its own fuel map rival time around Tsukuba. Or maybe not. Okay, now I'm really confused. I really expected the short shifting 4C to be faster here. This makes no sense, which tells me we need more data. What does the GTR do around Tsukuba? Well, after 4 laps at 50 times fuel consumption, it was a narrow victory for the fuel map. So we have the GTR being faster using the fuel map on the fuel challenge and around Tsukuba, but about even around Kyoto, while the Alfa 4C was faster around Kyoto short shifting, but both methods of fuel saving were evenly matched around Tsukuba. Confused yet? I am. Initially, I believed that the different power curves of each engine would dictate the results, but after looking at the power curves for the 4C and the GTR, they aren't actually that different. But maybe the subtle differences that there are really matter? To put this to the test, we need a car with a vastly different power curve, so enter the Supra. As you can see, peak torque starts very early, and in my mind, if any car is going to hugely benefit from short shifting, it's going to be this car. But after 5 laps at 30 times fuel consumption around Tsukuba, short shifting was again slower, so there goes that theory. But we saw this with the 4C. Its performance at Tsukuba didn't match its Kyoto times. So what happens when we take the Supra to Kyoto? Yeah, short shifting got smashed again, this time by over 10 seconds. At this point I really needed to study the runs because obviously I've missed something, but what? We only had 2 variables, the car and the track, but we tested for both and both gave conflicting results. But then I realized that I'd forgotten I'm an idiot. There isn't just the car and the track to test, there's the fuel itself. The initial fuel challenge that started this all required the fuel map to be set to around 4 to make it. This resulted in a slight win for the fuel map. The Alfa 4C run at Kyoto, which saw a major victory for short shifting, only required half the laps at 4 and the rest at 3. The runs in the Supra and GTR around Tsukuba, which saw a win for the fuel map, all required at least a setting of 5 for most of the run. Is that the answer then? The less fuel you have to burn, the faster the fuel map? We previously saw the Supra finish its short shifting run over 10 seconds behind the fuel map run. This was over 5 laps at 12 times fuel usage. If we are correct and the amount of fuel burn being the key, then we should see short shifting close the gap if we reduce the fuel consumption down to 10x from 12x. And this is what you're looking at right now. Dropping from 12x to 10x fuel consumption only gains us an extra 16% more fuel, but as we cross the line, that 10-second loss in the previous run has turned into a 3-second victory for short shifting. That's a huge turnaround. So what have we learnt? Testing is hard, that's what I've learnt. But there does seem to be a correlation between the amount of fuel you have to use in a race and which technique is going to be faster. Here's my take on why. Let's take a look at the Supra running 5 laps with 12 times fuel usage. Out of the final corner, we can't let the engine rev out. We can't afford to lose the fuel, so we shift early and cross the line doing 182. The fuel map run though, we cross the line doing 190 with slightly more fuel left. A little better of everything. The 10x fuel consumption run is another story entirely. Out of the final corner, we have enough fuel to open up the engine just a little bit and let 4th and 5th gears reach over 5,000 RPM. When we cross the line, we are doing 198 this time, so how does that stack up against the fuel map run? Well, very well. The fuel map run crosses the line 1 km/h slower, but with crucially 3% less fuel. The tables have turned. With only 10x fuel consumption, fuel becomes something you can play with. When fuel is tight, you really must short shift all of the time, otherwise you're just not going to make it to the end. With more fuel at the beginning of each straight or upper hill, I can choose to spend just a little of that fuel to maximize my speed. I can make it back in other more technical areas by short shifting early when I know I'm going to brake soon anyway. More fuel buys flexibility in your short shifting technique, and this can in turn shave seconds off your lap times. This all still doesn't mean I am right and short shifting is faster though. But on the plus side, Sarah isn't right either, which makes me happy inside. It's pretty clear that short shifting when fuel is really tight isn't the greatest idea, but on the flip side, sticking to the fuel map when you only need to save a moderate amount of fuel isn't correct either. It's another one of those boring, it depends answers. But if you want to be a real Jedi Master, you can adjust the fuel map on the fly to match each section of a track to maximize power while also short shifting. Nobody ever said you need to choose one or the other technique. But even if I was up for those mental gymnastics, my will says no, jumping around to whatever setting it wants if I try to change it too quickly. Stupid wheel. I'll be uploading a select few of the unedited side-by-side fuel comparison runs to their sister channel, Formula Digital Sprints, alongside the now faster Fuel Map GTR mission. Links to those below if you're curious. In the meantime, let me know in the comments what you think is the fastest fuel saving technique and why. I'd love to hear your take on it.